computer?
They're gonna record you.
Good memory.
Bye-bye.
Memory.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good night,
night.
Zoe.
Good night, Zoe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, wow. Is she able, you're able to get her to bed at now-ish? I'm impressed.
Patrick whisked her off.
Right, I'm impressed.
That doesn't mean she's going to sleep. Come on.
Exactly.
Just that she said good night, though. I'm impressed.
That's a beginning. That's the start.
Yeah, that's a start.
I just said the same thing. I was like, wow, that looked really easy.
Oh yeah, no. She's a night owl.
So is it helpful for me to share the agenda? Do people like to look at it, or should we just talk it?
I'm going to run next door for a sec. Go ahead.
Do people have a preference?
Either or.
Either or? Okay. And you guys have it printed out. Okay.
Or we'll just keep it on our screens ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't know, Amy, do you want to start, or should I? We just want to bring everyone up to speed about what's been happening with the whole gas project. There's some late breaking events that we're trying to figure out answers to, whether there might be some other solutions. There's a lot of unknowns, but we think we can at least share with everyone what we know and what maybe to expect in a worst case scenario, that type of thing, and definitely talk about assessments that are going to need to happen one way or another. So Amy, do you want to start with the kind of what happened with where we didn't pass the, I feel like you were more involved with that, and what brought us here?
Sure. Marie, are you all set over there, or are you?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to make sure this was on, so if he comes down, he can come right in.
Okay.
I'll go back.
Oh, Joel's not on yet. Okay.
Yeah, that's for Joel.
Okay. Okay, so the update, I think everyone on the call knows, but I'll say it all for the recording.
Yeah.
You can walk in.
So we had this inspection that was required by this new local law. We didn't pass the inspection because the basement pipes aren't in compliance with some of the code. So we are gonna have to bring the basement pipes up to code. And when we do that, there's gonna be work in the basement, and they have to do a pressure test after they do the work in the basement to bring it up to code. And when they do the pressure test, they're testing the lines all the way up to the apartments to see if there's any leaks, or if they can handle a certain amount of pressure, I guess. And if our lines don't pass that, then we have to continue to do work up to the lines to our apartments, in the apartments that don't pass. So what we don't know is whether or not those lines will pass. And so we don't know the extent of the work that's needed. So we're sure that we need to have the work in the basement. And then, so we'll call that phase one. And we think that because we have potentially 100-year-old, 50-year-old lines in some of the apartments, that there's going to at least be some work in a phase two. And so there's a lot of unknowns around it. Yes.
Sure. Oh, you guys are muted.
When you say the lines in the basement, does that include the risers that go up to the apartment, or only the lines that are below the first floor level?
Yes, the riser, so the phase one does not touch the risers. It's just the lines around the meters, and it's not the lines that go to the boiler or the hot water. It's only the lines that go to our apartment. So it's just the ones around the meter.
Yeah.
Once they fix those around the meter, that's when they will test the risers to see if there's any leaks. And that's when it would go up to our apartment.
So phase one is just for everything horizontal down in the basement that would lead into the risers.
So it sounds like it's everything like that's connected to the gas company's pipes that comes up to the meters.
Yeah, so the meters have lead, they're lead pipes, so those have to come out. And there are some of those elbow joints that need to be removed because you could potentially hook up an illegal connection to them, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
And
Oh, good. Joel is there. Joel, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
So it's work that we know that 6 of the 8 lines are not in compliance with the new code. So those definitely will have to be worked on. And those being worked on means that, there's a shutdown of or there's a pressure test for every apartment, I guess, once the gas is shut off.
Oh,
Yeah, so Joel, the recap is there's 2 phases of the work. So we had this inspection for this new local law that were required to have. And we didn't pass the inspection because some of the pipes in the basement around the meters are out of compliance. We have to bring those pipes up to compliance. So that's the first phase of the work. And once we get those up to compliance, well, as part of that, we have to test all the lines to also make sure that the pressure up to our apartments is okay. And if it's not okay, then we have to replace the pipes all the way up to the apartments.
all the way up to what?
To our apartments.
Oh,
Yeah. So that we're calling phase 2 because we don't know for sure if we have to do work in the apartments, but we think we have there's going to at least be some risers that need to be worked on because our pipes are so old.
Yeah. And I mean, the only thing to kind of keep in the back of your head is that we're discussing whether there could be, the phase 1 assumes that we're staying with gas in the building, and that's happening for everyone. And I think there's been some interest in the possibility of what it might be to rewire for electric. It seems like that's going to be out of, not possible for us now. But it's just something we're kind of trying to figure out and assess whether, if we made these upgrades and stuff, if the building could even handle that. And that's something we're talking to an electrician about. But what we wanted to talk, we pretty much think that phase 1 is going to happen. And then just to go over how that would be covered is we thought we would use 15,000 of our 23,000 reserves. I think we have even maybe a little more than 23,000 in reserves. We wanted to definitely keep some cushion available for all these other projects. There's also a leak from Angela's apartment, or underneath her toilet down into mine, that is getting covered by co-op expenses because it's beneath her floor. With the toilet, so we definitely need to keep some reserves. So the plan was to do 15,000 of the 20 of our reserves, and then that would leave, it's 18,000 for this phase 1, and so it would leave 3,000, and there'd be an assessment of 375, a one-time assessment of every apartment, paying 375 to do phase 1.
$375?
For the
300
first phase, yes.
Yeah, for phase 1.
That's
And
not bad.
Yeah, that's not
That's
too
not the
bad.
full story, but yes.
Hold that excitement.
So
I was
that's, yeah.
expecting worse.
Yeah, so if we're sticking with gas, which we think we are, that would be the phase 1, and we'd have to pay that no matter what to bring everything in the basement into compliance. And then what Amy was saying, the phase 2 is something that we don't really know the cost of yet, because it would have to do with which apartments fail the pressure test. And Amy, am I right that can we do a pressure test at the very beginning before we even do phase 1, just to kind of, so
Yes.
that would kind of be the first thing, and then we would have a clear idea of which units didn't pass. And I guess maybe you guys or people on here know more about, like, we've heard everything. The person who came, the technician today, said if it's over 30 years old, 25, 30 years, chances are it's not going to pass. But he also was saying there's a 50-50 chance compared to what he's, I don't, it's hard to predict. I think we're pretty confident that Amy's apartment, which had the work done a few years ago, will pass. But we're kind of trying to prepare for what if, like, 7 of the 8 units don't pass the pressure test.
And can we just say that initially, as soon as they do that pressure test, and we assume there will be failures, that they will shut off the gas to the stoves, right?
Not the hot water, not the heat, but the gas to the stoves. And to the dryers.
Dryers, right?
Have them.
To the and to the stoves
Sorry?
and to the stoves.
Stove and dryer, yeah.
Aye.
Amy, did they give you any indication about how long the gas work will take? Is it gonna be
Yeah, if they could like just move through everything without stopping, like we're not holding up any decisions, and I guess inspections go as planned, 3 weeks. But
Wow.
that's like the best case scenario. Yeah.
And and it's just the stove and dryer. So we would still have hot water, shower water, and that's good. And so we had someone come by today, Tino, I think, from the plumber that we're looking at going with, and he kind of even went into the different apartments, and it's it's kind of complicated, but basically it would be building whole new riser lines, so not going into the walls, into the risers that we currently have. It's like creating a whole new system. So from the horizontal pipe in the basement that comes out of the meter, they would build a riser, let's say, up to Maureen's apartment into her stove. If I don't pass, then they have to build a riser up through Maureen's apartment into my apartment, into my stove. And that would not be at the same place as more. This is, I hope I'm explaining this right, Amy. I don't know. And then if Angela's apartment doesn't pass, there'd be a riser that would go up through Maureen's apartment, my apartment, into Angela's apartment, somewhere as close as possible to the stove, and then be kind of connected through piping to the stove. And this way of doing it externally is apparently the only way to do this. We haven't had anyone that says you should go into the walls and do massive repiping of, I guess, the original lines. It seems like this is our only option without spending millions.
And I think that there was actually some good news today, because what we were told originally was that the quote was for like lines on the exterior of the walls, which just sounded like there would be pipes everywhere. But the technician that came today seemed to like really care about piping in the right place in the wall to have the least interference with like whatever was actually there. But that means that he had a specific place within the apartments where it would actually make sense to go up. So it could be that if you're on the second or the third floor or the first floor, that there would be up to 2. I think he identified up to 2 places where you might have pipes going.
Right. So I couldn't even remember this. I was trying to explain it to Michael. So in my apartment, you guys and sorry, Amy and Margaret are above me, and your stove are in the same place. But would they still have to be 2 separate lines for each of you? So I didn't really ask him, but I assume they would be kind of next to each other in my wall somewhere to get to you. And then Joel's is back where mine is, so there would be a different pipe. So right, the first floor would have 3 pipes, 3 lines, right, coming through the wall somewhere, right? And the top floor wouldn't have any, just their own lines straight down, right?
Right.
But The lower you are, the more lines you have running through your unit.
And so what you're saying, those lines, and this is what he was describing today, those will be embedded behind like the sheetrock. Nothing's going to be protruding out of the walls. They'll find a way to go in, or it'll be like minimal.
Yeah, he's like, for example, he saw in your apartment, Maureen, that there was already a radiator pipe, in one corner. So his idea was, oh, you could just put it right next to this pipe, so it wouldn't be, a separate new pipe sticking out. It would just,
But
And-
but it's not
and-
going to be in the wall, right? It is going to be external, like it's going to be.
No, I think where he can do it, because he was saying he needs a contractor to cut holes so he can put the pipes through. So it depends. Like, I think he's going to customize each pipe going through based on what he finds out the best location is. Because it's complicated. Because it was like, if he saw your exposed pipe, Maureen, of like a radiator pipe, and he said, oh, that's a perfect place to put it. And then he noticed that it went up through Daniel's bathroom, but he's not allowed to put an exposed gas pipe in a bathroom. So he has to go through, he knows all the codes, and he has to go through, like, what's the least intrusive, most like aesthetically pleasing way to get to put the pipe in and be in line with code. So he didn't give us every answer for how every pipe will go, but I felt like he knew his stuff and was really careful. And he said, if I had known that this is what I was gonna have to do, you would not have gotten the estimate you got from us. I think we got a really low estimate. Even when the gas work was done on our line, it was like twice as much, I think. And I think, and that was the estimate we got from Franco Belli too. So I do think, and we've heard great things about this group. So I do think that while it doesn't feel like a deal, I think that we actually are getting a really good.
Yeah.
So if just to clarify that point, he can do all this. He'll do the considerations of where and how to position the pipes for the best aesthetics and all the best practical results, and still do that for 3,500 per apartment.
No,
or
well,
you could turn into 4,000 or 5,000.
yeah. So
The
his
pipes itself, he's only responsible for the pipes, and his cost for the pipes, he said he'll stick with his estimate for 2,900. The question is how much we pay per line for the construction around it, and I think that becomes our own decision making about the aesthetics and saving molding and everything.
And I think what he was saying about the quote is he gave us 2,900 for every unit, which any unit that needs the pipe. So that could be Joel's going all the way up to the 4th floor, or Maureen's, or so that's the deal. I think if he had known about, and also that how our apartments don't align because of different renovations and how each thing has to be kind of individualized. I think if he had known that. But yes, I mean, I think we feel really good about him and, that work. But what we would do is we would hire a contractor kind of concurrently. I think this is what I understood with the plumbing. So they'd be working on the lines and the contractor would be helping them to open up the walls in the best possible way and then covering those. And so all of this kind of plumbing and construction work would be done together.
And he didn't really specify this, but I assume when he figures out who needs what, and he determines the route of the pipes, where he thinks he needs to enter each, I assume he'll review that with each of us and make sure, he gets sign off on the way he's going to go through your apartment. So, in our case, yeah, he might have to take some of our molding, might have to come up. I don't know if there'll be an alternative, but he'll work with us and make sure that, he's not going to just start. We're not going to start cutting walls without everybody having their say.
Right, and I guess it's not just walls; it's like hardwood floors and tiles and.
It shouldn't be. He didn't really get into that, right? He didn't think that.
He was looking for places where he would get around moldings, tiles, cabinets, anything. And it seemed like he had paths to be able to do that. No floors. He didn't mention floors.
I'm
No.
just, but I guess I still, just for my own understanding, when he said like that pipe, that riser pipe where the gas already is, that's a great place to put the new pipe. What I assumed is he's literally going to put another pipe next to it, and there's going to now be a smaller gas pipe next to it, right? He's not going to embed it in the walls, right?
I thought he only meant that in Maureen's apartment, Maureen and Jeff's. Amy?
Yeah, that's what I understood. I think there could, and Margaret, I think he was saying that was a possibility for yours. But I don't think that was I don't think that's, because if he breaks too much of the wall and there's molding, then you can upset the molding. So it's a trade-off.
Actually, can I ask a clarifying question? Which is, because when it was first getting explained, and maybe because of the pipe in our apartment, I was thinking that the pipes were going to be kind of like in the apartment, not in the walls in the apartment. So are they in the walls? Are they actually pipes going through like the room?
I think that's an either. It depends on the situation. I think the only rule is that it cannot be exposed in the hallway. Pipes cannot be exposed in the hallway. So it has to be either exposed inside the apartment or in the walls inside the apartment.
Oh, they
So-
can't be in the common hallway.
Right.
And it can't be exposed in the bathroom, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So for example,
But I
in
think-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think the three options, and this would be what you, like Marie said, you would discuss with him what the options are. It would be either out in the open so that you could see it, out in the open but covered, because they can look really nice if they're covered in nice molding, or in the wall. So I think those are, we just don't, it's just going to be different for each line.
So,
Yeah, I think in some units it's kind of impossible. So for us, where they'd have to go up from our apartment to the second and third floors would be in the middle of our dining room area where there's this big molding. I don't think it could be exposed here. I think it has to be inside the wall, and it means taking a piece of our molding off, whatever. But I don't think it's possible here to put one that's outside of the wall. So I think those are the decisions. If it's possible and people are okay with having them out, exposed, I guess it's fine, but it's probably not possible in some of the instances.
If an option is to have the pipe not embedded in the wall, but outside of the wall, but then at the same time enclosed in some kind of boxing thing, in that instance, is it possible to put it in the hallway or a bathroom? No.
Oh yeah, in the bathroom, you can have it closed off.
Okay, but not in the hallway.
Yeah.
Right.
Not in the shared hallway, not in the public space, but in your bathroom or in your hallway.
Okay, because I know, I mean, they're not gas pipes, but in our apartment, there's something called an encroachment. So in our living room, there's like a little thing that comes down. It's like a box, and it's actually the plumbing for
Right.
Daniel's apartment.
We
So
have
when they
walls.
renovated, because that was a rental apartment, they did that to make the renovation cheaper, I guess. But so I imagine that you could box something like that to make a shape that just covers the pipes.
And I don't know.
And Amy, you probably can't show the way you have it.
But
I mean, it's different. It's a horizontal, but it would be a vertical version of that, right?
let me see if I can do it.
I mean, it can't be a very thick pipe because that thing in your hallway does not look particularly big, that covering.
Yeah, the pipe is like maybe a quarter a size or maybe a little bit larger. And let me
I mean,
try
I
to-
think we all have some sort of version of that because, like, we have it in our bathroom for Amy and Patrick's plumbing. Like, it's hidden behind like the skinniest closet you can imagine in our bathroom. It holds like
I didn't
shampoo.
know that. Sorry about that.
No, it was already there. I mean, I think we would all have to have something along those lines to have the plumbing come from the top floors down.
Oh, we have a skinny pipe in the back bedroom, the little bedroom, which is Patrick's room, formerly
We
Patrick's
have
room.
one of those too.
And I
It
wonder
goes
if that's
all
what it is. I never thought. I guess it's the gas pipe.
So see that molding up there? That's actually hiding, what is that? See, I can't even tell the difference. I know for sure that it's molding in our hallway. Let's see it. But it essentially looks the same. No, you can't really see it. Yeah, I think this is the same thing. Sorry, I'm not.
What?
See that molding up there? That's hiding a gas line behind it. Along the ceiling.
So it's really what will look better, an exposed pipe, a pipe that's covered, or a pipe that's in the wall, right?
But Marie, my understanding when we were talking to him today is because it would look best to have the pipe within the wall, right? That would be
Yes.
ideal. So my assumption was that because I think we would all want that if we could do that, but somehow that was going to be ridiculously expensive or destructive to go into the walls like that. That's why I thought they were doing this externally and just, and that was my understanding. Otherwise, I think we would all want them in the walls,
I
right?
think that there's some places where it's more doable than others. So
Yeah.
like he was talking about, like we have moldings all, you can see behind me, that would be impossible to preserve. All those little detailed moldings.
I see.
But
okay.
if it's just that one top line, it might be possible to cut below it, cut above it, and stick the pipe around it and touch up the rest.
Right.
But I will also say the molding behind me is fake because that's where our gas line came in behind the wall, and it was just, this is wood that's like in the design. And our carpenter was not like fancy at all in terms of like doing custom stuff, but they were able to pull this off. So I think it's totally doable.
So it's a case by case
But it's all
basis.
gonna cost.
What, Joel?
But we don't know how much this is all going to cost.
We have some estimates. We
I mean, $2,900 per pipe per apartment sounds great.
No.
Right. But that's only for the plumbing.
and we
Only
expect,
plumbing?
yeah, and we asked, what would be the right kind of estimate for the construction to go along with it, and he said about 2,500 per line that we have to fix is probably the right assumption around how much construction would require
Does that mean per apartment?
per line that gets fixed, right? So that would be, so if we
Like
assume
5,400.
yeah, if we assume at least one line doesn't pass, then the total is, it would be like up to 4,750, is that right? Per person, per unit for phase 2.
And that's just the plumbing. That's
Well-
not the repair
Oh,
of.
no, that would be
Yes, that's
including
the whole thing.
Well, 2,900 plus 2,500 is 5,400, right?
times 7 divided by 8.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So then we're down at 40.
That's where that comes from.
Wait, Jeff, I wanna ask you, because earlier you were surprised by the 2,900 figure. Does that just sound? I know that you have kind of a construction knowledge background. Does that just sound scary, slow to you?
I was just trying to confirm that the estimated figure, and you just clarified it to some extent by saying that it's only the plumbing, and then there's additional, renovation, sort of demo and renovation to get the plumbing where it needs to be, and then fix all the stuff he had to do to get it there, and make it look nice again. So it looks suspiciously low, but when you add in the additional work, more like 4,500 to 5,000 per unit
Yeah.
that needs the work done, would make a little bit more sense to me.
And then add into that he feels like he gave us a really good deal with saying 2,900 for it.
Well, I guess he thought it would maybe average out. So for instance, our actual and Maureen's line is short, right? It's an easy one. It comes right from the basement right to our stoves, end of story. And that's 2,900. But that's also 2,900 for going to Joel's, which is like going this way, crazy. So I guess he assumed when he gave us the estimate that it would sort of all balance out. Little did he know how varied our setups are in the building. That's his, mistake.
And we're assuming we can exclude Margaret's apartment because they've already done work on the plumbing. Oh no, I'm sorry, Amy's apartment, because they've already redone the plumbing and it should be in compliance.
Whose apartment?
Amy's. Do I have that right?
Mine.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if Maureen and I, in fact, were to decide that we have no need for gas pipes into the apartment, period, and we could basically terminate whatever connection from the meter into our apartment at wherever they terminate it, they cap it or whatever they do, and we just don't. So that would be a second apartment that we could theoretically exclude from the whole calculation.
From the 2,900 part.
Gas into the apartment at all, and it becomes a problem for some subsequent owner if they decide to put gas in, that they have to figure out how to do it. But we could just basically say, we don't want it, thank you. Shut us off and cap it off at the meter. We don't want any pipes, period. So that would be then 6 units instead of 7 that need the work done, potentially.
Yes, but would you install an electric stove, or you're saying...
We have a convection stove already.
That runs on 120.
Yeah. So we have a convection stove, and we haven't decided to.
It's a stove top thing you have.
Yeah, it's a stovetop. And actually, it just kind of depends. I mean, it sounds like we're going to find out in the very beginning. There's going to be a test before phase 1 is even done, and so we might decide, because when Masato and I renovated the apartment, there was a lot of electric and gas work done. So I'm not saying I think we're going to pass, but I know there was a lot of work that we had done at that time. So, and depending on how much we think it's going to be, we might decide to cap it, or we might just, because since we have the convection stovetop, and we've read stuff about, and we don't have a dryer or anything like that, and we've been reading how they're kind of somewhat more considered more ecological. So there might even be a trend, it's just kind of might be our preference. We haven't decided one way or the other. And I imagine way down the road, it might be a negative selling feature for our apartment, but anybody who would move in there would rip out that kitchen anyway.
Well, Maureen, as he said, all new construction can have gas. So whenever if you ever sell it, that trend will already be in place. So people not expecting gas. So Margaret, I guess Margaret doesn't know, but couldn't even remember all the previous owners from Margaret, but I thought Leslie and Jim did a gut renovation too, but I guess they didn't have the pressure issue. I don't remember that happening where that line was replaced.
I don't know, because they were the owners prior to Marcia and
and they were a gut renovation, and they must have moved your stove because would have been in the back of the apartment as well, I think.
Yeah, so I actually was thinking about this, because is Joel's
is like mine
in the back, because we both have some sort of gas pipe in the back, I think, now that I'm
no, Joel's stove is where mine is, in the middle.
Dryer though is in the back.
I think that line might be well, maybe it's old from,
because we have a very skinny pipe that runs, we have the radiator pipe at the very far back at the window, but then there is a small little square pipe that hooks around in our floor in the back, near where Jared's desk is. And then there's another skinny, I guess, a radiator pipe that gets very hot. So there's 2 radiator pipes, but then something that's definitely in the floor. but there has to be some sort of gas that's running from the basement up into Joel's dryer. Joel, is your washer and dryer at the very back of your apartment?
It's it's toward the back. It's not at the very back.
Oh.
Oh, I thought it was in the kitchen somehow. Okay.
It's
And-
used. It is used. It is off the kitchen.
I
And the
don't know.
kitchen in the bed is about the middle of the apartment.
And Joel, do you understand that all the dryers in the building which includes the basement dryer and your dryer if it's a gas dryer, are going to have to be capped, and because if they're not permitted.
Are going to have to be what?
Turned off because they're not permitted. The city has a record of all the permitted dryers in the building, and there's the one in the basement and the one in your apartment don't have permits. So you either can cap them or you can pay to get them permitted, but it sounds like it's
Pretty
very
expensive.
costly.
And the capping, Maureen, if you guys chose to cap your apartment, your stove, he said he will cap our dryers as part of he's not going to charge us extra. It's just
Will
going to
not
be,
charge.
You will not charge extra to cap it, but it will, like the inspectors will come and so it has to be capped.
So
you won't have the dryer anymore.
what we're looking to do in the basement is maybe replace the gas dryer with an electric dryer.
Well, I'm content with my gas dryer.
I know, but
It's not legal.
What do you mean it's not legal?
It's not, there's no permit on file with the Department of Buildings. And so without a permit, it's considered illegal. And so it either needs to get permitted, which it costs thousands and thousands of dollars to do that, or it needs to be capped and turned off.
What does it cost to cap it then?
Nothing.
Nothing.
All right, so what are we worried about?
That you
Well,
won't,
you won't
it's that
have
you
a
won't have the
dryer.
dryer anymore.
I want a dryer.
I know, but capping it means shutting off the pipes to it.
You have to switch to an electric dryer, Joel. You cannot have a gas one anymore. It's against the law with the new law for the way the gas is going to be running in these buildings.
All right.
Unless, Joel, you think they're mistaken and it is a permitted dryer and you can check with Department of Buildings, but Amy, they
No,
checked.
I mean, they checked, the inspectors checked. So the inspectors are saying they're saying to us, we have to get rid of all dryers or we have to turn off the gas to all dryers that don't have the.
Let me write here. I'm writing things down here, and I'm swimming with stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of information.
Have to turn off.
Well, yeah, we'll recap Joel with action
Have to turn
items, but
How many gas dryers are there inside of apartments?
You don't have to do anything, Joel. Right now we have 3 dryers total. And the only one that has a permit is ours because we just did this recent construction.
Okay.
but
Can I-
Jeff asked about in the apartments. Margaret's is electric,
Oh.
so she's clear. So it's the one in the basement. That's gas unpermitted, and then Joel's unpermitted gas.
Can I you to use mine?
What?
Can I continue to use my dryer?
No.
Why
Well,
not?
Until the work gets done. Once the gas work gets done, it's going to get capped, and then you can't use it anymore. You have to replace it with an electric dryer.
Which costs these days what, about $800?
I don't know.
Don't know.
Probably.
And we used to have an electric dryer, but then we got rid of it because it was so expensive, and we switched to the gas one in the basement.
And you'd probably have to, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd probably have to bring 220 current to the dryer as well. If you don't have 220, you'd have to bring it to the dryer to be able to have an electric dryer there. I think electric dryers have to run on 220. So if you don't have a 220 line, then you'd have to get one.
Yeah.
The big kind of plug, not the small regular plug, but the big fat plug.
Is the one in the basement a 220 plug?
If it's a gas dryer, it doesn't need it.
No, but if it's, you know, the one
Electric
that's
drive
between, anyway,
might
we'll
need
figure it out.
current.
What's
Pardon me?
all?
For an electric dryer, you might need 220 current.
I believe you must have 220 for an electric dryer.
Must have it.
Yes.
So I guess,
Actually, this is kind of related to the whole question. So the question for the building and for each unit is when there's going to be the pressure test, and we're going to have to decide either where the pipes are going to go through our building, and we're also going to have to make decisions of whether or not we want to keep gas or consider switching over to electric stoves. So I don't know if it's worth talking about what we do know about that, or if we don't know enough and it's not worth talking about.
I think it's worth mentioning that we're going to talk to an electrician about what that would mean. We know it would mean upgrading the electric in the basement to handle more amps per apartment. We know that we would need to check the current, I guess, coming in from the street and make sure that that's enough. And Maria, as I understand it, like some other co-ops on listservs we've seen have said, okay, we looked into this, we wanted to do it for the environment and everything, and then we looked into all this repair, and the electricity coming in from the street isn't enough to sustain it. So we would have to check all of those things. And then we would probably get a separate quote about what it would be to run electric wires up to all the apartments. And I mean, it's just something we don't know a lot of. I mean, Maureen, maybe you know more about this. You know, definitely it is, it's happening more, and it's even happening in some restaurants. You know, it is environmentally more friendly. We just don't know. There's expensive costs with the electric wiring, and then all the upgrading of the building, but also we wouldn't have, you know, the fixing of the gas, all the gas piping. And, you know, so I think we need to get a comparative estimate of what the electrician thinks it would cost to both upgrade the building and also per unit, kind of like what we're presenting here for gas. We just don't have that for electric.
I can't say with any expertise, but it seems to me that pulling wires up would be a cheaper proposition than running pipes up.
It is.
So
He even admitted that, the plumber.
That it's less
that part is cheaper. I think the question is that you have to buy all new equipment, so that's a cost, and that there is a permitting process for that as well, and so that just increased because we assume most apartments would need to upgrade electric in order to be able to have an electric stove or an induction. I think people would probably, some people would prefer induction because that actually is.
When does it have to be done by?
All of this has to be done by November 2nd.
Of this year?
Yep.
Amy, I have two questions. If we start the work process, do they grant us any leeway with like, okay, we've got the inspections done, they can see that there's like a action plan in place, or is it a hard November 2nd?
I mean, what the original inspector said to me was they have this due date, but he hasn't seen the city like coming after people who are not meeting it, especially if they're trying. But at the same time, we just don't know, and it's like a $10,000 fine if you don't meet it.
And we wouldn't have the stoves for the entire, the longer we wait.
Right,
That's how much time we wouldn't have the stoves.
We don't want to put it off too much.
No. That's not what I was hinting at.
Suppose I want to continue to use my gas stove while this is going on. Can I?
No.
Hey, so Joel, just to summarize, like there's going to be work that starts. It's at least 3 weeks, and during that time, they're going to check if the gas is safe. And if it's not, then they're going to have to fix the pipes all the way up to the apartment. But either way, so we don't know if they're going to fix the pipes in your apartment or not, but your gas will be off during this time. And no matter what they find about if the pipes are okay to your apartment, your dryer has to be off. And the cost of all this, we don't know the cost of all this, but there's definitely two assessments. The first is, we know, is going to be $375. That's right?
If we've agreed that we can use 15,000 of the reserve of it, the total cost of phase one is 18,000. We're hoping we can commit 15 of the
First,
reserve.
only $375?
That's
Because we're using because we're using a chunk of the reserve, Joel.
Yeah, we're using 15,000 of the reserves. And we're going below the 15,000 in reserves that we agreed on, so that, because this is kind of an emergency use.
Okay, and the first assessment is 375, and the second assessment?
That's
what?
what we don't know, but we want people to be ready for something as high as, what do we say, 4,000, 5,000.
5,000? Hopefully
As
less,
high-
but
As high as $5,000.
Oh,
I know.
I'm sick.
So if
Yeah.
just, I wanted to ask something, and I know that there's big decisions being made sort of with a gun to the head here, but if there was a consensus that it made sense to all 8 owners to go to just basically not do gas, we're dumping gas, then does one sidestep or avoid the $15,000, the $18,000?
Yes, that's what we have to.
And take those funds toward bringing more amps into the building or whatever.
Exactly. Yes, that's what we should say. That the phase one is definite if we're definitely
Any
keeping
gas
gas.
at all anyway. Yeah.
there would be a cost. We'd have to shut down the gas lines. I don't know what they would charge for that. We'd have to keep the boiler, the gas for the boiler going, but I don't know how much they would charge to turn on. I don't know if it's one or they go through every meter. You know, there's going to be some expense for
The other
that.
thing
But actually, wouldn't we still use gas for the hot water?
Yeah, it's different though.
Right.
They'd have to
That's-
cap.
that's-
They'd
those
have to
ones
cap
are
the
okay.
meters.
They already fixed that, and it's in compliance, so we don't have to worry about that.
So there would be a charge for capping all the gas lines that we have going into the apartments, either for dryer or the basement for dryers and for stoves. There would definitely be a cost for that, no matter what, if we switch to electric or not. And it sounds like, Daniel, you had said somewhere in the beginning that some electricians you had spoken or are going to speak to some electricians. You were looking into some research, and some people were like, it was crazy expensive to do it for a whole building. But you're finding out a little bit more about that. Did I get that right?
Yeah, and when we haven't looked at, I mean, I don't know, are there incentives to switch to electric? I mean, if the city is encouraging this, I mean, it's just stuff that, again, yeah, we haven't looked into this, but I don't know if there are tax incentives or other things to switch over. But so that's why we want to bring an electrician in to kind of give us an estimate. I mean, I heard, some things from Mike Russell, the contractor next door, but he wants to talk to the electrician, so I don't think we want to quote anything, but it would be a different, thing. And yeah, I don't know exactly how much capping the gas lines would cost. I feel like the major costs would be the upgrades in the electricity and all the electrical wiring, and that. And I think. Sorry, I was just going to say, I don't think we'd ever feel that the building's in a position to do it right now, but if we're forced to do something major like all of these individual gas line renovations, it just might be something to also consider. Like Jeff, as you said, if it's something that all 8, if we want to go that route and we just don't have enough information, but it's just something I think that we want to look into quickly.
And we did get an estimate from the plumber, so we don't know how accurate it is. It's not in his interest to give us a good estimate, but he said he talked to an electrician, and they estimated between 6,000 and 8,000 per unit, including stove. So again, we're going to talk to other electricians,
Right?
But I do think, my sense from, and there's been conversations on Park Slope Parents about this, is that it doesn't actually save you money, but it might be like a forward-looking kind of thing.
And,
Um,
and and just to add to that, I mean, Michael Russell said that he thought it would be 5,000 per apartment plus the upgrades to the building. So he thought that so I think we need to get the electrician coming and giving us estimates.
My only question with that is that's only for new wiring. So like the upgrade is accessing new wiring from like street level into the building. It wouldn't like my worry would be an electrician would be like, oh, and they start looking at all the old wiring that's in the walls, which is so incredibly old. Like when I don't know, Amy, if you experienced this, but when my dad like hung our chandeliers, he was like, oh my god, I don't even know if like you should be hanging these in this wiring. And our apartment did have some renovation, at least in the last 15 years. I guess I would just be like anxious that an electrician would then be like, all this other stuff is not up to code, and that could open
The
up.
way Michael Russell described it was that the in the basement there are they're panels with our electrical stuff in them.
Yeah.
That those would have to be, I think he said they only supply 80 amps or something, and the stove would require 40. So they definitely,
Wow.
those definitely would have to be increased because you couldn't run multiple things with the stove on.
But I
And
think,
that, his electrician's going to check the box in the front, the one that's to the street, to see if that's strong enough. If that's not strong enough and the panels need to be replaced, we'll see how much that would cost.
Can we have gas ranges when this is all done?
Pardon me?
Can we have gas ranges, that is gas stoves, when this is all done?
if
That's
we
what we're
if,
discussing.
if we stick with gas, if we switch to electric, we wouldn't, and we would switch to electric ranges and electric stoves.
And I imagine a question too with the electric would be,
Cooking is a lot nicer with gas.
I agree, Joel. I grew up with gas. I prefer it, but I'd be willing to give it a try, especially with the new types of stovetops that don't generate heat.
Yeah, as I understand it, right, they're better than the ones previously with the coils that heat up, that then stay hot, and you can burn your hand because they don't go out. I mean, and maybe
Right.
again, Maureen, you may know more about this, but
I mean, actually, all I learned from convection is it's just all Jeff. I'm just saying what he says.
So I'll just get for background. My son bought a house in suburban Washington D.C. last year. They didn't have any gas at all, and he remodeled the kitchen, and we went out and got a very up to date LG brand induction range. So that's an electric oven and an induction top, which is the stove part
The new
of
thing.
that range. And we've cooked a lot on it, and once you get used to it, the responsiveness of the induction process, which is magnetic way of transferring energy rather than radiant heat, but you can go from 8 to 1 with boiling water and it stops instantly. It stops immediately. Or you can go from 1 to 8 and it starts boiling immediately. So
What is 1
as
to 8?
responsive as gas in terms of how it of your bait. The only thing you don't have is the ability to visibly look at a flame and see it get bigger and smaller. But in terms of the responsiveness to a change in the control, it's instantaneous. We did a kind of a
I don't understand.
sort of a
1 to 80
hack
and 1.
homespun sous vide way of cooking a turkey for Thanksgiving, and I kept that thing within 2 or 3 degrees for 6 hours, just tweaking the temperatures this way and that way, and it worked
Can
fine.
somebody
So
explain?
that all goes to say,
From 1 to 80 and 80 to 1?
no, Joel.
It's just a dial. So instead of it's 1 is low and 8 is high. So he's just going from low to high.
that's all just by way of explaining that the induction stovetop can be as a very similar experience to cooking with a gas stovetop in terms of how quickly it responds to changes in temperature.
I just want to say though, if we went electric, I would definitely get one of those, but I think we'd have to agree on what's a reasonable amount that the co-op would put towards someone's stove. Like we're not going to buy everybody an induction stovetop oven, right? We're going to look at a typical electric stove that, I don't know, costs $500, $600, whatever. And if people want to get a better one, they would have to pay the difference. That we would start with
But
a
they
set amount. I just want to say that,
Yeah.
that we're not all going to get gorgeous
So,
induction.
Samantha,
What's that?
suppose you want to keep your gas stove.
Well, that is I mean, these are all, we don't have to have all the same thing for the whole building. However, some of the cost of electric would be the cost of the electricity coming into the building. So it wouldn't make sense if only some of us changed. So we might have to vote if we want electric or if we want gas.
Okay.
Plus on the top floor, say you kept your gas and everybody else wanted electric. All your gas line would have to run through our apartments. So we'd have to have the construction in our apartments regardless of what we chose to
Yeah.
do.
And yet,
So
it
I
would,
think it would have to be a vote.
I wanted to say one more thing about the electric is that I think it would be important too. I think, Daniel, that you mentioned there being some limitations sometimes with what's available in the street to come into the building. So if people have like electric dryers and electric stoves, and then the other electric appliances, there would need to be enough capacity coming in from whatever lines are in the street so that, like, if I'm cooking something and Marie's making toast, it's
Yeah.
not like blowing out line.
Yeah, I'm sure it accounts for a full
And
load.
there needs to be enough capacity, and that sounds like something that we don't really know at the moment.
And I think that, I don't know who's going to talk to, if you're talking to Michael tonight, Marie, but I think Margaret's question is an important one, because I know that it does require permitting to upgrade the electricity. And I know that we had to make upgrades beyond what we were focused on during our renovation to pass inspection. So I just, it's just,
No, it's good.
we just
That's
had
a
our
good
gas
point.
inspection and now we have all this work. We don't want an electric inspection and then to find out we have more work.
We had, I don't know, 2 or 3 years into living here, we had very few outlets along our walls, which I'm sure is the same as everybody else's apartment, but we had wanted to run a couple, just a couple of extras on some of the other walls. We had two electricians come in and they were like, no, we thought, because we have the circuit breaker box, and they just were not like, they didn't recommend adding more pull from like our single apartment based on how old the wire.
I mean, does anyone know of a co-op that successfully transitioned to electric? Like, I'm just curious if it's, I mean, it seems kind of,
And I can ask around, but
I mean, Amy did find some people that were frustrated and said, we tried, we wanted to do it for all the right reasons, and we kept hitting these roadblocks. So, I mean, there's no question, but I guess I'm just feeling like there are roadblocks either way, and the gas is also going to be extremely costly, probably, one way or the other. So, if it's a choice between two extremely costly things, and one could be more future looking and maybe a little less damaging and pulling up wires and gas, I don't know. I just think it's worth looking into. And again, I just haven't, I don't know if there are incentives for it. But I'm just kind of curious if anyone knows of buildings that have done it. Maybe not yet.
No, but you know what? It's a good exercise. We should just explore all the options, right, before we go forward. We just can't waste
If it
too
turns out
much
to be
time.
a wash on cost, then it might make sense to do the forward-looking thing. But what you're saying is there's all sorts of unintended consequences of deciding to go electric for idealistic reasons, and all of a sudden you find out that you got to rewire the whole building from scratch, and now it's not a wash anymore. So one other possible consideration is, does this pressure testing extend to the stove, to the gas range itself? Or, and to put the question another way, is it possible that a gas range could fail and they would order that to be replaced?
I don't know if they can.
No,
Can they
they
separate
test
that?
on the ends of the pipes. I think that, who was telling me? Someone told me that they have to unplug the stoves, go into each apartment and do the pressure test.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think the measure is at the end of he said it runs for 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
The test.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens to the gas
So
that they're turning on,
each
but
individual owner would have to decide for themselves if they want to keep, like Maureen's stove is really old, and it's evident to anyone who walks in the apartment that the stove has a leak because you can smell the gas pretty much all the time.
It's
Until we
because
shut the gas off, and then it didn't smell.
it has a
anymore.
pilot light, so there is always some gas coming out of it.
And I didn't know if other apartments might have equally old ones with that
I mean,
the equipment would more or less be ordered to be replaced, like an unpermitted dryer or something.
That's
But
a
maybe
good
that's not the case.
I don't think my stove in any way would fail an inspection or something, but it does it does release gas, like the venting of it. I'm not exactly sure exactly how much gas is coming in. So I mean the idea of is kind of tempting, I guess, to move away from that. But yeah, I mean, and needless to say, if you are willing to do some research into, asking around about, if the switch to electric, if you know someone who's done the external gas piping, we're doing it, but we could use help. If you do hear of a tax incentive or something like that, and send it our way, so it just helps to inform the decision. And then I think we'll ask the electrician, to be as and conservative as possible. I think. I mean, give us the extreme, like what would it take, and what's the possibility of not being up to code with other wiring if you're doing that. I think we'll just have to really hit the electrician with all of these same questions in the same way that we're kind of trying to figure out from the plumbers what could go wrong.
I'm sick.
I
Yeah,
also wonder what we should think about in terms of timeline. I mean, I think, I know we don't have that much flexibility. We can't move forward faster than we have information, and we're trying to gather it as quickly as possible. But I also know that the fall is really a hard time with all the transitions. Like September is always just working.
Yeah.
And so the idea of trying to move work quickly during September is a little, I don't know.
How busy is, if we decide to stay gas and keep gas, how busy is Dove? They're the ones that we said would do the work, correct?
Yeah.
So
He
are
said
they,
he's
like-
ready. He said he's ready to go in like two weeks.
Okay.
And I thought from talking to Tino today, he was just like, if you guys are go, we'll come over, do the pressure tests.
Yeah.
Then he thought he could even do Maureen, your and Marie's, like almost that first day. Like it's just so easy to get those pipes up there. And he was he was, I think they're ready.
And don't we have to get, well, I guess unless we decide to do electric, like if we decided to do electric, we wouldn't have to do any pressure test because we're not going to use, we just have to get everything capped.
That's what I feel like the first
Right.
decision
So-
might.
Yeah.
The
So
first decision might be to just try to research more about electric and make that decision.
make a decision.
Or say if 7 fail, if 5+ fail, we're thinking we may want to go electric. Well, no, that would be after the test, right? So
No, but he could do the test. He could do the test before he starts the work, right?
but
It
then
would
doesn't the
shut
gas
him off.
stays shut off? Yeah.
We would, but if we moved ahead,
Either way, the gas is going to stay shut off because
Wow.
they have to, as soon as he starts work, the gas gets shut off and then it stays off until we pass inspection.
the only tricky thing is if we say, oh, we want you to test the lines first, right? And they all fail, whatever.
Yeah.
And we decide to go electric, we basically locked him in to do the work, right? Because we had him do the first bit of it by testing the pipes. The line, I don't know, it just
But he's
Yeah.
just dumping it, you mean?
like, but we're not signing a contract with him. You know what I mean?
think I think we could be honest with him about we're considering electric, and can we break the invoice down into, and they have been putting a lot of work into this, but
I know.
we have to do what's best for the building. But I think we could, we there would be a cost to Dove, regardless of for doing the pressure tests and maybe capping the line,
Right.
doing
testing
that
it.
part and break it down for us there, and
Right.
that would be included in the cost of switching over to electric.
So this is described as a phase 1, which is the work on the pipes in the basement, which would happen after this pressure test takes place. But the phase 2, which is the installation of service to each apartment, can't be put off. Once you start phase one, then everything's off until the whole thing's done. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So it's really, you can look at it as phase one and phase two, but they're really one complete process. The gas is off and it's going to stay off until you do the
Right.
whole thing.
We just
How
don't-
long is that?
At least 3 weeks. Probably we should expect more than that because construction never is as fast as you expect it to be.
And one last question is is there a deadline to get this test done? Basically, the clock starts running, or the 3 weeks. They shut the gas off when they do the test, and it stays off. How long until that test has to take place?
Not there. The only thing is that we got an inspection. I forget what month it was, but we had 90 days to correct it, or 180 days, and that will be November 2nd. So so we need to bring the building up to compliance by November 2nd.
Second, right.
So,
I mean, I think the idea that what we need to do is we need to make a decision about electric. Are we planning to pursue that or not? And I would say, I don't know, maybe this is like impossible, but I would say we should try to do that in the next week.
Yes, absolutely.
So that we and maybe schedule the pressure test so that it's on the calendar, we know when it's happening. And then after that, it would be 3 weeks from the pressure test to finalizing everything. So that would get us to the end of August, or it would be turned off forever and we start working on the electric. And that also means as soon as we do the pressure test, that's when we have to start paying them whatever we owe them for the gas lines, because the half is required at the beginning, half required upon completion. So it's really, we only have like, assuming it all goes smoothly, it's really like within a month we have to pay off all of this. So I think that's the important thing for all of us to know, is like how much to have ready by when. So that's why we're giving these estimates, even if they're on the high end.
One other question, and I know it's not like fully researched, but did Michael Russell or the other electrician give any indication about how long the electric work would take? Like, we know the gas minimum is 3 weeks. Probably we're looking closer to 4 to 6 maybe. Would the electric be as long?
That's a question we'll ask.
We'll ask. Okay. I just wasn't sure in the conversation. Okay.
Yeah, but I agree, Amy. I think we want to kind of get through the electric thing, make that decision very soon, maybe the next week or two. And you think, Amy, maybe schedule the...
I don't know if we can do that. I mean, I guess though we also need to have another co-op meeting to vote on what we're going to do if we are seriously considering electric.
Right.
Joel, do you have any other questions? I know this is a ton of information, and
I am swamped already.
yeah.
The questions are how much it's going to cost, bottom line, and we haven't gotten to that kind of consideration yet.
Well, I think the number to know is that it's going to be $375 plus up to $5,000.
I can live with it, but up to 5,000 is, obviously 5,000.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But for Joel, but also for Amy, for him, he also has to take care of the gas dryer,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they'll cap it as part of the price. There won't be anything extra for that, but it's got to get rid of it. And
What do you? Do they get rid of it for you? Will they take it out of your apartment?
No.
But it says on the agenda, if you have a gas dryer in your apartment, you need to pay to have it capped. So that'll be part of.
oh,
Is that it?
Yeah. No, we found out today that he is including the capping in the price. So, but thank you.
Yeah,
Marguerite.
but probably not the remove, but maybe the contractor.
Not the.
My preference on all of this is that when we're through with it, when we've got a finished product, that I have a gas kitchen and gas dryer rather than an electric kitchen and an electric dryer.
It's,
But
We
Well, what-
understand that's what you want, but if you want a gas dryer, you're gonna have to get a plumber to get a permit and do all the required work for it. And you could get an estimate, but it would be very expensive to keep a gas dryer.
oh, okay.
Joel, I did a quick like Google search and what comes up for electric dryers, and I not like looking at the electric conversion that Jeff spoke about, but like the average seems to be about $500 for an electric dryer.
So not a lot of money.
You know, it'll still be a cost, but it's not. I mean, there's ones that are in the thousands, but Home Depot and Lowe's have ones that are in the $500 range as well.
It has to be less than getting the permit to
Yeah.
go through the gas process.
though we don't know is that if you need to upgrade your electric to make it possible, which is which would require permits. So you would have to have an electrician come and look at that.
If I want to keep gas cooking, can I do that and still have, a dryer system that works with the rest of yours? In other words, can I have can I have an electric can I have a gas stove and an electric dryer?
If we decide as a building to keep gas, then yes, you'd get to keep your gas stove. That's what part of what we're talking about repairing is the gas lines, and then everybody would keep a gas stove unless you, like Maureen and Jeff, decide they don't want gas anymore. But if we decide as a building entirely to go electric, then everybody will have an electric stove and oven, and then an electric dryer.
But Joel, you're going to need to change your dryer no matter what.
Right.
And
My
if
dryer
the
has
stays
a
gas,
door that's dislodged down, so some work is going to have to be done on this dryer as it is.
right? So, but you could keep if the building decides to make the repair to the gas delivery lines and everything, you can keep your gas stove, no questions asked. But it sounds like because of permitting process, you probably can't afford to keep a gas dryer, and you'll have to consider the cost of bringing the right kind of electricity into your apartment and replacing your gas dryer with an electric dryer.
Okay, can I keep a gas stove and keep everything else electric?
If everything else, if all the apartments decide that they're going to repair the gas lines and keep the building gas, then your gas stove can stay the way it is.
Okay, but we have to decide this as a building.
Yes, we don't think it would be worth it to have one apartment keep gas and have to fix the gas for that one or two apartments and do the electric wiring everywhere else. We feel like it makes more sense to decide as a building once we have the facts about how much it will cost and how forward looking it could be and just, what's going to get us through this.
So what are our next decisions?
Electric versus gas is a next decision, and then after that we go forward from there.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're going to need to have another all building meeting to make that decision, because we're not making a decision on electric or gas today, right?
Right.
It sounds like if I wanted to hold out for myself for gas, I would be doing it at the cost of a lot of money. In other words, I can't do it. I can't do just a gas stove, one gas stove.
We just haven't decided yet, because I think there are a lot of people who are undecided about whether they want to switch. So the first step is to find out how much electric will cost, and then each unit will decide what their preference is, and then we'll vote all together.
Right.
Right.
And it seems like it would have to be a consensus decision. You can't. Well,
Yeah.
You can't have. You could vote 7-1 for electric, but the one the one vote for gas could basically decide that. Well, it's a hard. That's a whole nother sort of
Yeah.
thought process how to make that decision, whether it's by majority vote or by.
Right. I think.
Even though we have a convection, we would definitely agree to gas for sure. And truthfully, we did get the convection, but like Jeff and I prefer cooking with gas. And even our house in Pennsylvania, the first thing that we did, the only thing that we did for 5 years to renovate was get rid of the electric stove and get a propane stove so that we could cook with gas. So we really love cooking with gas. It's just that in this instance, with the co-op building, just exploring all of the options, and if the electric option seemed more reasonable, cost, interruption, maybe it's a smarter thing to do. We just don't know either. It's just, having all the options does seem kind of like very confusing, and my head is also kind of swimming, yet we're going to get through this together. And,
My head is kind of swimming.
We'll walk you through it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
We'll figure it out. Can people do this time? Is this a good time for people generally? 8 p.m. on Monday?
As good as any other time.
Right. So maybe we should reconvene. I'm going to be in Denmark on August 1st. I'm realizing. So I would try to get on somewhere, but I'm a little bit. I might even be traveling. But that's okay. And I'm willing to definitely try to do to get more information about electric if that's our first decision to make. But should we try to reschedule this for a week from now?
Jeff and I can do it a week from now at 8.
Is a week enough time, do we think, to get a bunch of?
Well, we'll tentatively plan to meet, right? And if we don't have the info, we'll have to
Well, how about
postpone it. We'll try.
Could we say?
How about 2 weeks from now?
It would be great for me actually to do a little later in the week because I'll at least be in Denmark, adjusted to something, and can.
Denmark.
Yeah, I'm going to Denmark. Could people do
When
like?
do you leave, Daniel? Because if we're not going to get an estimate on a Saturday or Sunday, so we might as well just.
It's at 8 o'clock at night.
Were we deciding whether we wanted to have our next meeting next Monday or?
That's what we're trying to decide. I mean, I leave on Sunday evening.
This coming Sunday?
Yeah, and I'm gonna be. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I could do it. Could people do like Thursday, August 4th, 8 p.m.?
That's what I
Daniel,
would.
you know what time that is in Denmark?
I can't even figure it out. I'm trying to
It's
think.
like
It's
2
like
o'clock
2
in the morning.
2
my
a.m.
friends.
Okay, all right. Well,
Could we find a time on Saturday? I do feel like maybe that's crazy, but I think the time pressure is real, and like waiting till Monday evening versus assume like.
Why don't we wait? Why don't I hear what he has to say tonight, the
Okay.
electrician? Because if he says it's outrageously expensive, that might end
Right.
it right there, right?
right.
Yeah.
So Amy, you're saying, but I just feel like while we're all on, we could at least put a tentative date. You're saying Saturday the 30th, try to all come back on?
Yeah. And I think we should just do it the same way where we get the most people and we just, or Friday the 29th, and I have no
So-
life, so it's.
Yeah,
Are we
the-
talking about July?
Yeah, the end of the week.
Are we on?
Saturday's okay with us.
Yeah, we can't do
Yeah,
Friday.
me
We could do Saturday.
Okay, so
We also could do Monday the 1st or Monday the 8th. But I mean, that wasn't a date up. But Saturday the 30th was a date that was on the
it was on the original. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, since there's 2 other owners, that aren't here right now.
Where are they, by the way?
Craig had to work late, and Angela had a medical thing she had to deal with. So
So could people do and we I just feel like it's good to have it's like Saturday at 4 p.m., Saturday at 5 p.m.
We can do 8 p.m.
You can do 8 p.m. Saturday. All right, should we just tentatively say 8 p.m. Saturday, and we'll try to get as much info as possible?
Next meeting, 8 p.m. Saturday what?
July 30th.
July 30th?
Yeah.
In 5 days.
That's soon, isn't it?
It's very soon.
And
I'm always available for meetings. It's just a question of,
Yeah.
bottom line on some of this stuff.
Well, we may not know everything, but we'll definitely know more then. And as Marie is saying, maybe the electric is just, that's an option that we're not sure is even possible. So maybe we can at least know if it's even possible and introduce, either end that discussion or say it's continuing and we need to vote.
Why might it not be possible?
The expense.
Yeah.
The expense?
Yeah, can the building handle it? Can the electric grid handle it where we are to do something like this? Can is it going to open up a whole can of worms with the electric wiring in a way that we're dealing with the gas? I think those are some concerns that we want to talk to the electrician about. And then yeah, definitely if it's just expensive beyond measure, then we can't do it.
I wanted
Okay.
to. I wanted
But
to.
for our next meeting, 8 p.m. Saturday night, July 30th.
Yeah. Maureen, what were you saying?
I wanted to thank Daniel, Margaret, Amy, and Marie for doing so much research and organizing this meeting.
It's all Daniel, Amy, and Marie. I have not participated.
Okay. Well, I know it's mostly Daniel and Amy, but
No, Marie's.
Sucked her into this.
Yeah, she's been sucked in, and we're trying to
well,
figure it out.
thank you for doing this. This ain't easy. I know that.
What are you going to Denmark for?
I have an uncle who's Danish. He's been inviting me for years, and my mom's sister married a Dane, and they've been inviting me, and I finally thought I just got to do it while I can. So I'm going to see him in northeastern Denmark and then Copenhagen.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, so that should be fun. I know. I'll have. I hope we'll have a better idea of this, before I go, because I know all of us are kind of. It's hard to have it all hanging over our heads. So hopefully we'll have some more clarity on Saturday.
Yeah. Okay.
All
right, and the same kind of Zoom meeting, I suppose.
Yeah. And Joel, Daniel sent out an email with some of these details written down. Maybe we can print that out for you so you have it on paper.
I don't get email.
Yeah, so we can print it out and make sure that you have those notes.
Well, what is it you need? What are we concerned about here?
Just so that you have the bottom line from all of this whole conversation written down, if it's helpful.
I've been taking pen and ink notes, but the question is, there are things that argue with other things.
We can try to print up minutes and stuff and just post that downstairs. And we'll just try to keep, but you check the board when you come in.
Okay.
Right, Joel?
Yes, I did. I checked the board,
okay.
But I wouldn't have known that there was this meeting tonight. Having checked the board all the way through.
Yeah, it was quick.
Those orange sheets that, you all hung down.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, somebody declares that there's a meeting at 8 p.m. on Monday night. I mean, that's.
We got to move fast. Sorry.
Yeah.
You made it, Joel. Here you are.
You made it. I'm glad I caught you today. But yeah, you made it. And okay, I know
somebody, Daniel, caught me in the hallway and said, "Do you know about the meeting tonight? Are you coming?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be here."
All right, we'll keep you in the loop. We'll keep you informed.
Okay, assume that I do not use email on computers.
Okay. All right, everyone. I know we're well over what we had thought, but so we'll convene again on Saturday and hopefully have a little more info and send any research that you want to do or have found that you think would help that decision, because I know everyone's busy, but that would be helpful.
All right, 8 p.m. Saturday night, July 30th.
Yes. Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Good night.
Okay, good night.
Good night. Thank you all.